welcome to the Motivation Monday. My favorite quote, for especially when it comes to training, is good old Anton Chekhov. Wisdom comes not from age, but from education and learning. So for today, we'll have our tip of the week, sales shout outs, see who's making money and what products are doing well. And we'll look at some a little presentation on actually it's on niches this week. Okay. Finding our niche. Now, our tip of the week is about Medicare. For those who are interested in Medicare, or maybe they've been doing their AHIP so that they can sell 2020 plans. That has got to be completed by Thursday, June 18th. If you're currently enrolled, you have to complete that training by June 18th. If not, they're closing 2020 out, and they'll be launching the 2021 Medicare certification on June 22nd. Now, what that really means to you is that if you wanted to sell currently the 2020 plans, you'd need to be finished up by Thursday, June 18th. If you start on June 22nd for the 2021, you'll be good for open enrollment because those plans start on January 1st of 2021, but you wouldn't be able to sell any current plans. So it's a good thing to get that taken care of. If get that finished up, you've got a couple of weeks left to be able to sell for 2020. Some shout outs here. It looks like when it came to short-term plans, the NHIC kind of led the way, but everything else, limited medical, accident, critical illness, and dental, this last week was all golden rule. Those seem to be the money-making plans. And as far as who was making money, it looks like in the short-term plans, short-term medical was Bill Cox, Max Weinstein, and Katia Santa Maria. For those who were doing the limited medical, Arthur Walsh and Sarah Fry both kind of led the way. And in accident plans, and amazingly, those always kind of pair up with that limited medical, Arthur Walsh again, and Timothy Brown. Yep. Today's topic, what we were looking at is finding a niche. They've always said that if you can, find a niche, just an inch wide, you just go a mile deep in that niche, and that's where you would be doing your business and really pushing it. So the couple of things is, how do you find that niche? How do you find, exactly what's going to work for you? So we'll look at some of the steps you can use to kind of determine do you want to be just doing general everything, or do you want to be that go-to person when it comes to, I don't know, group sales? I don't know. So just kind of decide what that niche would be, and we'll hopefully give you some ideas on how to test that market and get in there to see if that is something that would work for you. So typically you're going to define your market. Now, there are two basic markets out there. And as we look at that, you would see that that's going to be either commercial or individual. Like I said, consumer or business. So, so we're dividing up right away. Do you want to deal with the individual consumer, or do you want to try to deal with businesses? So those are a couple of different ways of looking at things, okay? And I'm just trying to see what I can do here to kind of make this work for you. Okay. So when we're talking about these examples, and I always try to just put it in general business terms. If you were selling women's clothing, From a retail store, your target market is consumers. And of course, if you're selling office supplies, your target market is business. So in our world, it's either going to be individuals where we're selling, all the insurance products, or our business where we would be typically still selling a lot of those individual plans, but we're looking at the group market. Now, let's see. Come on. Okay. Let's see what computer just does not seem to want to work here today. Where is it skipping to? Okay, so we start off with kind of making a wish list. And with that, we're going to be looking at who do we want to do business with? And in that case, do we want to, like I said, do we want to be in that individual market? Or do we want to be in the business area? Okay. And as we kind of break that down, let's try to clarify. You have to recognize that you can't really do business with everybody. So otherwise, you're kind of exhausting and becoming a little confusing. And if you want to try to get into the niches, and let's see, if I was saying that I wanted to target families with teenagers, that's really not specific. Okay? So we want to get really specific. I want to target, inner city families with incomes of $40,000 and up. Or I want to aim at small business. Again, that's just too broad. But if I said I wanted to be with Chicago-based companies that have an employee, 15 employees or more, that would be a pretty good goal there. So what we want to do is kind of then focus in on just what fits that area. Okay, you'd make a list of what you do best and the skills implicit to each of those. Kind of put together your achievements, identify your most important lessons that you've learned in life, and then look for a pattern that reveals your style or approach to solving problems. So clarify what you want to sell, remembering that you can't be all things to all people. And in the world of niches, smaller is bigger. So your niche isn't the same field maybe where you work. Maybe health insurance is not a niche, but health insurance is a field. So you want to be more specific. A niche could be, I want to be working with veterans, okay? Because maybe you are yourself a veteran. Or your niche could arise naturally from your interests and experience. An example could be you spent 10 years, in primary education as a school teacher, but you also spent 10 years working as a basketball coach. So you might decide that in your insurance business, you want to specialize in sports teams, okay? We all know that in the area of like accident plans, many exempt covering accidents from organized team and sports activities. So knowing that, you could get the plans together that just that would cover team sports and go out and market to that area. In an ordinary year, I'd say right now it's all those soccer teams are starting up and baseball and all of that. We don't see that as much this year, although I know in my own neighborhood I have seen some signs. I'm not sure exactly how they're going to be, organizing in the COVID-19 era here to be able to run those kind of sports, but I have seen a few signs. And so I'm just talking about, if that was your niche, you might want to market into that group of all those sports teams out there. Okay, so that'd just be something to kind of look for. And our next area is going to be to kind of synthesize. Okay, and in this I mean, okay, see where you want to go. Try to develop your longer term vision. Because in order for this to truly be successful, there has to be customers. Okay? So you want to make sure that we do have customers there. So at this point, your niche should start to kind of take shape as your ideas and clients' needs and wants coalesce to create something. A good niche, has these 5 qualities. Okay, and somebody wants it, you planned it out, it's one of a kind, maybe you're the only game in town. It involves allowing you to develop different profit centers and still retain that core business, so you can have that long-term success. But you want to be able to, I just try to give you some ideas of some niches that I've known people have gotten themselves and have been successful. You see, a lot of people like to do the veterans because they're a group. They're organized. You can go down to your VFW, especially if you are a member, or you are a veteran yourself. But that's not necessary. There's still a lot of things out there that go on with the veterans that you could become involved in. I knew a woman that had an in with a parole officer. And as you all know, that under the ACA, release from prison was a qualifying event. So working with that parole officer, she was able to get her clientele of those who were recently released from prison. And that just kind of builds that niche, get you going down into that area. I'd also mention things like people who have left the profession of maybe public school teacher, who then have a cadre of people that they're very familiar with and know the ins and outs of their problems and their what's going on in that area, such as sports. Okay, so find your niche out there and do the little bit of work that it takes to see if that's going to be something that works for you. Then, of course, the next step is always going to be to evaluate. You're going to have to check to make sure that you've met all of those steps, the 5 criteria there from step 4. Perhaps you'll find that the niche that you had in mind requires more business travel than you're ready for. It doesn't mean it has to fill every one of those criteria in step 4. It won't take you where you want to go. So if it doesn't, just scrap that and move on to your next idea. But as you talk with a lot of agents, you will find that a lot of people have found these little niches out there that really work for them. It's usually based on something personal. So keep that in mind as to what would drive getting there. And then of course you need to kind of test your market. Give people the opportunity to buy your product. And there's a couple of different ways. I don't want you spending money on this. It's not what you want to do there when they say test. It might be use the seminar where you can get some people together and invite them. And there's a lot of ways to get some free space. I've in the past used public libraries as a good place to kind of get people together. A lot of them will have a room there where you'll be able to bring people in and use that space, and a lot of times that's free. You don't have to go through all the extravagance of a lot that I've seen where they pay for a lunch or a dinner and put on the full dog and pony show. You can just maybe have a newsletter and give out samples of your newsletter. But you want to give people an opportunity to buy your product, not just theoretically, but actually putting it out there. And like I was saying, a couple of good ways to get things rolling is that, it's using the seminar or the newsletter. Again, if you spend huge amounts of money on your initial market test, you're probably doing it wrong. Okay? So these are just some ideas, some ways to get things going and to get out there. And let your imagination kind of take over. There's a lot of things that people have done. If you do a little internet search maybe, and if you have an idea or a place to go, with your business, and see if there's a market for it. Okay. So that's kind of what I had for you today. Just kind of giving you some suggestions to get out there and try to market that business. And we all want to do it on a shoestring. Nobody wants to spend a lot of money out there doing that. So social platforms are a good way to go, and just see what you can do with it. Excuse me. If you have any questions or anything you'd like to share, I'm available at training@ahpsales.com, or if you do have any problems, you can call our agency services. So with that, good selling and a happy Monday, and go out there and get them.